If you're planning to move between the US and Canada, this week brought some major changes you need to know about. And I'm not exaggerating. We're talking about the biggest citizenship reform in recent Canadian history, aggressive talent recruitment that's targeting American workers, specifically, over $1 billion in new border security measures, and a complete shift in how people are thinking about cross-border travel. Whether you're an H-1B visa holder in the United States feeling uncertain about your future, a Canadian living abroad wondering about your children's citizenship, or someone planning to cross the border anytime soon, what happened this week will directly impact you. Welcome back to Info Express, where every week we cut through the noise and bring you the migration news that actually matters. I'm your host, and I've spent the last 3 days analyzing these developments, reading the actual policy documents, and talking to immigration experts to bring you the complete picture. Today we're doing a deep dive into 4 critical stories that broke this week. We'll talk about what changed, why it matters, and most importantly, what you need to do about it. And stick around until the end because I'm going to share some insider tips on how to navigate these changes depending on your specific situation. Let's get started. Let's start with what I'm calling the biggest story of the week, and honestly, one of the most significant changes to Canadian citizenship law in decades. On December 15th, just 2 days ago, Canada implemented Bill C-3, and it fundamentally rewrites the rules about who can become a Canadian citizen by birth. Now, before your eyes glaze over thinking this is just boring legal stuff, stay with me because this affects thousands of families and might include yours. Here's the background. For years, Canada had what they called the first-generation limit. Essentially, if you were born abroad to Canadian parents who were also born outside Canada, you couldn't automatically get citizenship. You were cut off. This created some heartbreaking situations where families who considered themselves Canadian, who had deep ties to Canada, couldn't pass that citizenship to their children. Imagine this scenario. Your grandmother was born in Toronto, moved to the US, and your parent was born in New York. Then you were born in London while your parents were working abroad. Under the old rules, you couldn't claim Canadian citizenship, even though your family's connection to Canada was strong and recent. In 2023, a court looked at this and said, "This is unconstitutional. This violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms," and the government agreed. So what changed on December 15th? The first-generation limit is gone, completely eliminated, but there's a new requirement. Canadian parents born abroad can pass citizenship to their children if they spent at least 3 cumulative years in Canada before their child's birth or adoption. Let me break down what this means in practical terms. First, if you're a Canadian parent born outside Canada who lived in Canada for 3 years at any point, maybe you went to university there or worked there for a while or lived there as a child, you can now pass citizenship to your children born abroad. That's huge. Second, this is retroactive for many cases. If you previously applied for citizenship and were denied because of the first-generation limit, you may now be eligible. Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada is already processing these cases. Third, this affects not just new births but adoptions too. Canadian parents adopting children abroad now have a clearer path to securing citizenship for those children. The government estimates this could affect tens of thousands of people globally. If you're watching from the US, UK, Australia, or anywhere else with a significant Canadian diaspora, this could be your ticket to dual citizenship. Now, I want to be clear about something. You still need to prove that 3-year connection. That means gathering documents, school records, employment records, tax records, anything that shows physical presence in Canada. Start collecting those documents now if you think this applies to you. This isn't just about paperwork and legal status. This is about identity, belonging, and opportunity. Canadian citizenship means access to Canadian healthcare, education, job markets, and the ability to live and work anywhere in Canada without restrictions. In an increasingly uncertain world, having that second citizenship option is valuable beyond measure. Now, let's talk about something that should be front-page news but isn't getting enough attention. Canada is actively, aggressively recruiting American workers, and they're not being subtle about it. Picture this: you're a software engineer in Silicon Valley on an H-1B visa. You've been in the US for 5 years, maybe longer, waiting in the green card backlog. Your visa needs renewal every few years, and every renewal feels uncertain. You're watching the political winds shift, seeing restrictive immigration policies being proposed, and you're wondering, do I have a future here? Canada sees you, and they want you. Here's what's happening. With the current US administration implementing more restrictive immigration policies and cutting research funding across multiple federal agencies, Canada has identified a golden opportunity. They're not just opening their doors, they're rolling out the red carpet specifically for highly skilled workers who might be feeling uncertain about their American dream. The targeting is very specific. Let me break down who Canada is pursuing. First, researchers and academics. The US has seen significant cuts to research funding, particularly in areas like climate science, public health, and social sciences. Canadian universities and research institutions are actively reaching out to American researchers, offering not just jobs, but clear pathways to permanent residency. They're attending US academic conferences with recruitment booths, they're running targeted advertising campaigns, and they're fast-tracking work permits for researchers. Second, H-1B visa holders, particularly in tech. Canada understands the H-1B system's pain points: the lottery system, the long wait times for green cards, the dependence on employer sponsorship, the inability for spouses to work freely. They've designed their immigration programs to specifically address these frustrations. Through programs like the Global Talent Stream, tech workers can get work permits processed in as little as 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Compare that to the years of uncertainty in the H-1B system. Third, healthcare professionals, especially immigrant doctors. Here's something fascinating. Canada just announced new permanent residency pathways specifically for foreign-trained doctors. If you're a doctor in the US who trained abroad and has been struggling with credential recognition or finding the right opportunity, Canada is creating a streamlined path for you. They're addressing their own doctor shortage, while offering you stability and a clearer path to citizenship than you might find in the US. But let me tell you what makes this different from typical recruitment. Canada isn't just offering jobs, they're offering peace of mind. Think about the value proposition. In Canada, your work permit doesn't tie you to a single employer the way H-1B does in the US. You have more flexibility. Your spouse can work immediately, no waiting for EAD approval. Your path to permanent residency is more predictable, with processing times measured in months or a couple of years, not the decades-long waits that Indians and Chinese nationals face in the US green card system. And here's the kicker. Canada's Express Entry system, which is their main economic immigration program, actually gives you points for having US work experience and US degrees. They're literally valuing your American credentials and using them to fast-track your Canadian immigration. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what about salaries? Don't tech workers make less in Canada? Yes, salaries in Canada are generally lower than in major US tech hubs. A software engineer making $200,000 in San Francisco might make $120,000 to $150,000 Canadian dollars in Toronto or Vancouver. But here's the full picture you need to consider. Healthcare in Canada is covered. You're not paying $20,000 a year for family health insurance. Post-secondary education in Canada costs a fraction of US universities. That $80,000 difference in salary might actually result in better quality of life when you factor in these costs. Plus, there's the psychological value of immigration certainty versus constant visa anxiety. I'm not saying everyone should rush to Canada, but if you're in that uncertain H-1B situation, or you're a researcher watching funding dry up, or you're a foreign-trained doctor navigating US medical licensing, you now have a very real, very viable alternative that's actively courting you. The window is open right now. Canada has made this a priority. If you're interested, the time to start researching and preparing your application is now, not 6 months from now, when programs might be full or policies might change. Now, while Canada's opening doors wide for skilled workers, they're simultaneously fortifying the actual physical border with the United States, and they're investing serious money to do it. We're talking about a $1.3 billion border security overhaul, and it's changing what it means to cross between these two countries. Let me paint you a picture of what the Canada-US border looks like right now, because it's dramatically different from even 6 months ago. First, the drones. Canada just deployed 60 new drones along the border. These aren't hobbyist drones. These are advanced surveillance drones equipped with thermal imaging, night vision, and AI-powered detection systems. They can monitor vast stretches of the border that were previously difficult to patrol, especially in remote areas across the prairies and northern regions. But it's not just drones. Canada's installing surveillance towers at strategic points along the entire border. These towers have 360-degree cameras with facial recognition capabilities, license plate readers, and sensors that can detect unusual activity or unauthorized crossings. They're also deploying X-ray equipment and chemical analyzers at official border crossings. This means more thorough inspections of vehicles, more detailed screening of goods, and longer wait times at crossings, something everyone who regularly crosses needs to factor into their travel plans. Why is Canada doing this? There are several factors at play. 1. There's been increasing political pressure, particularly from the United States, about border security. Both countries are concerned about illegal crossings, drug trafficking, and human smuggling. Canada wants to demonstrate they're taking border security seriously. 2. There's been a rise in irregular border crossings, particularly of asylum seekers. While Canada has maintained its commitment to refugee protection, they want to ensure people are crossing at official ports of entry, where they can be properly processed. 3. And this is important, the security situation is being linked to trade. There have been hints from U.S. political leaders that border security and trade agreements might be connected. Canada doesn't want to give the U.S. any excuse to impose trade restrictions or tariffs based on border security concerns. Now, here's a practice that just ended that's important to understand: flagpoling. This was when people would cross from Canada into the U.S. and immediately turn around and come back to Canada, just to trigger their immigration status processing. It was a workaround for getting faster service from immigration officials. Canada officially ended flagpoling in December 2024, and the numbers are stark. There's been an 86% decrease in this activity. Why does this matter? It means if you were planning to use flagpoling to activate your work permit or change your immigration status, that option is no longer available. You'll need to process everything through official channels, which means longer processing times and more advanced planning. Here's what this all means for you practically. If you're planning to cross the border, plan extra time. What used to take 20 minutes might now take 45 minutes or an hour, especially during peak times. The days of casual, quick border crossings are evolving. If you have any immigration-related business at the border, don't expect to handle it informally. Everything needs to be documented, pre-arranged, and processed through official systems. If you're crossing with any goods, medications, or unusual items, have your documentation ready. The enhanced scanning and inspection capabilities mean customs officers have more tools to scrutinize what you're bringing across. And if you're someone who crosses frequently for work or family, consider getting into trusted traveler programs like Nexus. These programs, which allow pre-screened, low-risk travelers to cross more quickly, are more valuable than ever given the increased security measures. The Canada-US border has historically been one of the most open, friendly borders in the world. It's not closing, but it's definitely changing. Understanding these changes and preparing accordingly will save you time, frustration, and potential complications. Now let's talk about something that doesn't make headlines but represents a significant shift in North American dynamics: the changing relationship between Canadians and U.S. travel, and Canada's own immigration policy adjustments. Here are some statistics that should raise eyebrows. New data reveals that increasing numbers of Canadians are being detained by U.S. immigration and customs enforcement when they try to enter the United States. And here's the part that's really concerning: 44% of detained Canadians have absolutely no criminal records. 0. These are regular people, families, students, business travelers who are being detained, questioned, and in some cases denied entry. Why is this happening? Several factors are contributing. Post-pandemic, the U.S. has enhanced its screening processes at all entry points. There's been increased scrutiny of anyone with any immigration history, even if it's completely legal Canadian immigration. And there's been a documented increase in what immigration lawyers call pretextual denials, where border officers find technical reasons to deny entry or detain travelers for additional screening. The effect: Canadians are avoiding the U.S. This is showing up in the data in interesting ways. Travel from Canada to Mexico increased by 11.3% between January and September this year. That's significant. Traditionally, Canadian snowbirds, retirees who spend winter months in warmer climates, overwhelmingly chose Florida and Arizona. But this year, many are canceling their U.S. plans and heading to Mexico instead. They're citing concerns about political tensions, fear of detention or harassment at the border, and general unease about the current climate. This isn't just about retirees. Business travel is down, student exchanges are being reconsidered, families are choosing vacation destinations that don't involve U.S. border crossings. Now let's flip this and look at what Canada itself is doing with immigration. They're pumping the brakes. Canada's 2025 to 2027 immigration levels plan represents a significant reduction in permanent resident admissions. They're targeting 395,000 permanent residents in 2025, down from previous targets of 500,000. And it drops further in 2026 and 2027. Why the reduction? Canada's facing its own pressures. Housing affordability has become a major political issue, with many Canadians struggling to find affordable housing in major cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. There's been public pushback about infrastructure strain, schools, hospitals, transportation systems feeling overwhelmed. And there's concern about labor market absorption, particularly for certain professional categories. But here's the nuance. Canada isn't reducing all immigration equally, they're being strategic. The reductions are primarily in the family sponsorship and refugee categories, while they're maintaining or even increasing intake for economic immigrants, skilled workers, entrepreneurs, people who can immediately contribute to the economy. They're also shifting focus from processing new overseas applications to clearing the backlog of people already in Canada. If you're already in Canada on a work permit or study permit, your path to permanent residency might actually be faster under this new plan. If you're overseas and just starting the process, you might face longer wait times. There's another interesting development. Canada's prioritizing processing of applicants who can fill specific labor shortages. Healthcare workers, tradespeople, tech workers, and high-demand specializations, these categories are seeing faster processing even as overall numbers come down. What does this mean for you? If you're planning to apply for Canadian immigration from outside Canada, understand that competition is increasing. Your application needs to be stronger, more complete, and more strategic than ever. If you're already in Canada temporarily, explore your permanent residency pathways now. The preference for inland processing means this might be your best opportunity. If you're Canadian and travel to the US regularly, prepare for more scrutiny. Have documentation ready, know your rights at the border, and consider whether your trips are essential enough to justify potential hassles. And if you're American considering a move to Canada, understand that while skilled worker categories remain strong, the overall competitive landscape is tightening. Don't delay your applications thinking it will be easier later. It likely won't be. All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. Citizenship reform, talent recruitment, border security, and shifting travel and immigration patterns. Now let's talk about what you should actually do with all this information. First, if the citizenship story applies to you, if you're a Canadian born abroad or you have Canadian parents born outside Canada, don't wait. Start gathering documentation of your or your parents' time in Canada right now. School transcripts, employment records, tax documents, rental agreements, anything that proves that 3-year connection. The government is processing these applications, but the documentation requirements are strict. The sooner you start, the better. Second, if you're an H-1B holder or skilled professional in the US feeling uncertain, take 1 hour this week to seriously research Canada's express entry system and provincial nominee programs. I'm not saying you need to make a decision today, but you should understand your options. Visit the official Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada website, use their points calculator to see if you'd qualify, and understand what your path could look like. Knowledge is power, and right now, you have options you might not have a year from now. Third, if you're a researcher or academic seeing funding cuts, look into opportunities at Canadian universities and research institutions. Many are actively recruiting, offering competitive packages, and providing immigration support. Organizations like MyTax and the Canadian Institutes of Health Research have programs specifically designed to attract international talent. Fourth, if you regularly cross the US-Canada border, adjust your expectations and planning. Budget extra time for crossings, keep your documents organized and accessible, and if you cross frequently, seriously consider applying for Nexus. The $50 application fee and interview time will pay for itself in saved hours at the border. Fifth, if you're planning to apply for Canadian immigration, don't procrastinate. With reduced admission targets and increased competition, strong applications will stand out. Consider hiring a licensed immigration consultant or lawyer to review your application before submission. The cost of professional review is minimal compared to the cost of delays or refusals. Now here's where I need your help. This week brought major changes, but everyone's situation is different. Drop a comment below and tell me, are these changes affecting your migration plans? Are you considering moving from the US to Canada, or vice versa? What specific situations are you navigating right now? I read every single comment, and your questions often become topics for future deep dive videos. Your question could help thousands of other people in similar situations. And if you found this breakdown valuable, here's how you can help this channel grow and help more people get accurate, timely migration information. Hit that like button. It tells YouTube this content is valuable and helps it reach more people who need it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We publish in-depth migration news every week, breaking down complex policies into actionable information. Hit the notification bell and select all so you get alerted the moment I publish. When major migration news breaks, and it breaks fast these days, you'll be among the first to know. And finally, share this video. If you know someone on an H-1B visa, if you have Canadian friends abroad, if you know families affected by citizenship issues, send them this video. Information is most valuable when it reaches the people who need it. I'll see you next week with more updates that could change your plans, your options, and your future. Until then, stay informed, stay prepared, and most importantly, stay connected to the possibilities that exist on both sides of this border.